Let's see. I believe we are live. My lips are going to start lining up with what I'm saying in just a minute. Let's see here. All right, everybody. Hopefully, am I going really slow, Julie? Or am I? Nope. Good. We are on. So welcome, everyone, to this week's Lunch and Learn. If you've never joined us before, I am Piper Harris with Poema Women's Success Coaching, and I have committed to this Caring Through COVID series. So if you've been following along, I'm doing videos during the week, and then I bring a Lunch and Learn series every single week. So I bring an expert on to help us break free of this negativity of what's going on with COVID, and to give us some tips and tools that we can add to our personal and professional lives. So welcome to everyone. If you are joining us live on Facebook, please share this as a watch party on your Facebook page. We would love to have everybody see our experts today. And if you're joining us on our webinar, welcome. So before we get into everything, what you can expect is about an hour of discussion, and we're going to be recording this as well. And then we'll, of course, be able to have YouTubes, anything that you all need. But you must stay to the end because we do have a beautiful sleep workbook for you. And sleep, I got to talk about sleep. We're talking about sleeping well and being well. We are with my expert and my dear friend, Julie Kennedy. Julie, welcome.
Thank you for having me.
So I have known Julie almost 20 years, which is really, I was trying to go through how long have I been married? When did I meet Julie? So it's crazy to say that our friendship has spanned so many decades. So Julie is a gentle sleep coach. That's why we have her here today. She's trained and certified by Kim West. She is the sleep lady. Julie was one of the first of the 50 coaches to be trained as a gentle sleep coach. So this is extraordinary. Julie earned her bachelor's degree in psychology from Wazoo, Washington State University. If you don't know that, people, it's Wazoo. And then she earned her master's degree in counseling from Gonzaga. It's Gonzaga. She's a Zag, not Gonzaga. We're going to teach you these things, my Southern friends. We're going to teach you these things. After a successful and rewarding career as a school counselor in Spokane, she retired from that job to start a family. And after she personally sleep trained her first son, she's helped many families and friends with their children to help them discover how sleeping really can make a massive difference in their families and their homes. And she loved it, so she became a sleep consultant. Julie is in Washington State. She lives there with her husband and 3 sons. So that's a little intro for Julie. And as I said, Julie and I have known each other a long time. Julie, did I meet you through the prevention center or the city? I couldn't remember.
Oh, that's a good question. I think it was the prevention. I thought it was the prevention
Okay.
center.
Yeah, I was racking through my brain. I just couldn't remember where we had done. So that makes a lot of sense. So I was directing a program called Washington Drug-Free Youth, and you were with one of the schools as a counselor. So it was great. And that's how we forged our friendship. I do have a funny story for everyone before we get into this deep topic. You see, she's laughing. I told her I was going to share this story. I'm blessed to have so many amazing, brilliant, expert women in my life. But I'm also blessed to have women in my life that make fun of me, ridicule me, and know me so well. So one of Julie and I's funniest stories is she had just had, who did you just have? What?
It was my oldest, Will.
It was your old, yeah. So you just had Will. It was winter time. I ventured to Julie's like I had a million times to say hello, meet the baby, but it was winter. And Julie lived on this like really steep hill. And then one side was like this beautiful like landscape and everything during the spring and during the summer. Well, I was backing down her driveway after I visited and it's snowy and I didn't see what I was doing. And I felt the truck start to teeter over the side of this beautiful landscaping. And wouldn't you know, I watched too much Kung Fu and I thought it makes more sense for me to jump out of my vehicle than to stay in my vehicle as it's going over the side of the hill. So all that to be said, I got ran over by my own truck and I called Julie, sprawled out in the middle of the road, just a mess, crying. She stood at the top of her driveway. She's like, "Get up! You're fine."
I don't remember saying
I
that.
do. I get up, Piper. It was the funniest thing. This is what true friendship is. True friendship is get up, you're fine. Brush it off. So that is our we have lots of stories, but that's probably one of the most ridiculous stories that we have in our arsenal. So, well, again, Julie, I'm so excited to have you on. I know for myself during this corona pandemic, I'm really tired. I'm really tired. And I have noticed not only is my sleep really off, but my boys, their sleep is a mess. And so I think what's great about what you do, being a gentle sleep expert, I think that you can help me again. And you can also help so many people that are in the same boat right now. So before I keep going, getting into your sleep expertise, tell me a little bit about your transition from counselor into being a sleep consultant.
Sure. So as you had kind of alluded to earlier, my first son, Will,
Mhm.
after I had him, I wanted to go back to work, but I only wanted to go back part-time. And I inquired, and they didn't have any part-time positions at the time. So I decided that I would go study to get my mental health license. Since I had graduated from grad school, I had my degree, I just hadn't studied for my license yet. So I studied for my license and then got my license. And all of a sudden, my husband and I found ourselves moving over to the west side of the state.
Yeah.
And so as soon as so I put my practice on hold as we moved, and then even more crazy, I moved over here back to Bellevue and found out that I was pregnant with twins. And
Yeah.
so I said, well, I don't think I'll be doing any private practice anytime real soon.
Yeah.
So I put that on hold and was a stay-at-home mom for about 4 years.
So,
And then I was starting to get the itch. I was like, I really need to go back out there and start working a bit. So I still remember the moment I received this email from Kim West, who she wrote the book Goodnight Sleep Quiet. She was the one who I was trained under eventually, and or excuse me, who I used to train my son. That book, and I got this email from her, and she said, "I'm going to train the first ever sleep coaches. Would you be interested? And here's my program." So I reviewed her program, and I remember sitting down with my husband at dinner and saying, "Hey, I really want to do this. This is really, I was looking for a new niche. I didn't want to get back into the drug and alcohol field at the time.
yeah.
And I really honestly did not want to work with teens, which ironically, I have 3 teens right now.
Right.
Here I am living with them. Um, no, but at the time I was like, yeah, I just want to do something different, maybe work with moms. And here, this was perfect. So
Yeah.
I started my practice in June of 2011, and it started out very, very part-time, which was perfect, just slowly, gradually. And now I almost venture to say that it's definitely pretty close to full-time.
Yeah.
So
That's so exciting. And you've personally helped me. Thank God I have you as a friend in my pocket. It was oh my gosh, my kid, and so it has been really extraordinary seeing you, like I said, as a counselor, and like you said, working in drug and alcohol and at teenagers, which is so difficult, moving into doing this gentle sleep coaching. I love that. I love that transition. And your love of people and just wellness has just really, it doesn't matter, that you're not that school counselor anymore. You're using all of that, and that love of people and wellness is translated through everything that you've chosen. So, and I do think it's very funny. You don't want to work teenagers, and now you got three. Three. So tell me a little bit about, we're all faced with terrible sleep right now, terrible sleep. So what do you think are the main reasons all of us are struggling with that?
Well, obviously, many of us are stressed right now. Job changes, job losses, dealing with kids schooled from home.
Yes.
Our schedules are disrupted, and so it's normal to have a little bit of stress. Our bodies function well with a little bit of stress,
Yeah.
but when we have a higher level, it actually it increases our cortisol, which is definitely not a good thing.
Yeah.
Yeah, so just the stress is the biggest thing right now. And our normal sleep cycles, they could be disrupted without a predictable schedule,
Okay.
and it's like, oh, we're on coronation. Well,
Right.
it's not really a vacation. And, some people are realizing I need to have a little more stability in my schedule
Yeah.
so that our bodies are flowing naturally and work, just working better.
Yeah.
Uh, and then, having some natural light in the morning
Oh,
is really important because it helps to. I have my windows open all throughout the house. It's one of the first things I like to do is open up the windows.
okay.
Getting the natural light in the morning and actually in the evening time regulates our circadian rhythm. So
Oh, even at nighttime, natural
yeah, like
light.
early
Oh,
natural light, early evening time. Like I love going for a walk after dinner to get
okay.
natural fresh air. And those all those things help our sleep cycles, our circadian
Okay.
rhythm. And
Okay.
then another thing that's happening right now is, as we know, we're on it more, screen time.
Yeah, there's a
You know,
lot.
it's so hard because, we're trapped at home.
Yeah.
My husband's like, why are they playing, why are they doing so many screen times? I'm like, honey, they have no more sports. They've all been canceled. So there's
Yeah.
only so many times we can go out and jump on the trampoline. you know,
Yes.
we're doing gardening. Yes, that's all great, but there is, screens. And so the blue light from these screens
Okay.
negatively affects our melatonin production. So
Okay.
making sure, and I can talk more about this, as we get into the details later, but making sure that we are responsible with not as much crazy screen time.
Okay. Okay. That's great. But how do we do that though? I mean, I think I'm like you guys. My husband and I are like you in so many ways. It's driving me nuts that there's so much screen time right now. But on the flip side, I mean, the kids are really stressed out. I mean, their whole social lives have been taken away. So it's like that balance, right? Screen time or feel even more socially isolated.
Right. Yeah.
It's such a hard spot.
It is. And I guess talking to them about it and letting
Hmm.
them know you realize this is important for them socially. And then also, saying that it's also important to limit the amount of screen time and
Okay.
do other activities. They do have blue light filters
Oh,
for phones and such.
okay.
So I know on my cell phone, I have it's always on the filter. You
Okay.
can go in and change it to the blue light filter. Uh,
Oh, okay. That's
it-
great. That's great.
yeah, and I don't know about you, but I have a certain time at night. I say, boys, at
Yeah,
this
us too.
time, this is when all screens are turned off, and we have a dominoes game going right now.
Yeah.
That's probably gonna be a crazy one, but having board games and
Yeah.
other things, back to the good old days.
Right. It is kind of funny, isn't it? What we've learned as families
Yeah.
in the midst of this. I know we've done a lot of fire pit. We've
Yes.
gone out, we've roasted marshmallows, or we just go sit by the fire pit. And it's funny. It's forced us, like, because like you guys, we just really put the screens down, just
Yeah.
stop. You're being a zombie. But it is afforded us some of that family time that we didn't slow down for,
Exactly.
you
Oh,
know. So there's a blessing.
yeah, and I don't know about you, but we've been doing a lot more home cooking,
Oh my
and
gosh, if I cook one more meal, I'm gonna scream.
I know it's true. So I'm using this time to teach my kids. So
That's great.
they each pick one meal a week that they will be in charge of.
Okay.
They write down the menu. They write down all the ingredients they need, and of course, I'm shopping for the ingredients.
Right.
But and then they have a night that they choose. And diet is really important right now, making
Yep.
sure that we're eating healthy to keep our immune system well. And so
Mhm.
they're learning, a protein, a vegetable, that kind of thing, like how to do all that.
That's great.
Um, so diet is really helpful right now, and why not use the time to teach our kids how to cook?
Yeah. Does our diet affect our sleep?
Oh, absolutely.
Does
Yeah.
it? How
I mean,
so?
well, the different, so if we eat too late at night, it could interfere with our digestive system. If
Okay.
we eat unhealthy foods, the higher sugar or there's bad fats, not the good
Yeah.
fats, but the bad fats, you know, those things will maybe cause GI disruptions. Uh,
Okay. Okay.
And then of course for the adults, excessive alcohol. Try. I know you're like, oh, Julie, did you have to?
Do we have to give that up during Corona?
I know not to give it up, but it's be very careful having it
Yeah.
too late in the evening,
Yeah.
too much, because they think, oh yeah, it makes me fall asleep. Well, actually, it's a false sense of good sleep. You
Yeah.
wake up and you have actually poor quality sleep.
Okay.
So, and then
What's your opinion on sleep aids? I have found myself, because my sleep is goofy, I'm taking a Tylenol PM almost every night. What do you
so
think about that?
yeah, so I get that, and I want parents to just be very careful with that.
Yeah.
I worry. I don't want it. I always tell families, if you're going to use something like that, hopefully it's temporary.
Yeah.
Like a 1 or 2 week thing.
Okay.
And you probably know this better than anybody. Exercise is such a
Yeah.
wonderful tool to help us sleep well.
Yeah.
The studies talk about. I mean, I personally like to exercise in the morning, or it often doesn't get done, but the studies do say an evening exercise a couple hours before bedtime is actually really helpful for sleep.
Okay.
Uh,
So that's why you're doing the nighttime walk after dinner and all that. Okay.
exactly.
That's great. Okay.
Mhm.
So get our kiddos out on a walk with us and that sort of thing.
Yeah, yeah.
Okay.
The other thing that besides the alcohol that I'm sure you'll hate me saying is excessive caffeine.
We're from
Right. Like,
Boston, Julie. What? We
I
can't, don't tell me get rid of my coffee.
some people might call me Debbie Downer. No, no, but caffeine in the morning is fine,
Okay.
but they typically say caffeine afternoon is
Oh,
very helpful for sleep. And
afternoon.
some of
Jeez.
us are more affected by it than others.
Yeah.
I used to not be affected. I mean, back in the good old days when I was younger, I could have, go to the mocha stand and grab myself a
Yes.
mocha at 3 o'clock in the afternoon to get me through, and I'd be fine.
Yep.
Now I
Yep.
realize if I have anything caffeinated around that time, I'm toast. Like not very good.
Yeah. Anything for me past 3 or 4, and I toss and turn.
Yeah.
Yeah, definitely. So it sounds like sleep basics for you. You're saying we really need to focus on like our sleep cycle.
Mhm.
The light, make sure we block the blue light, but get the natural light, as well as, kind of the consistencies with how we go to sleep, that sort of thing. So what else can you tell me that's about sleep and what's critical for us to get good sleep?
Well, yeah. So sleep is a critical biological process, and truthfully, it's always important.
Yeah.
But when we're dealing with this pandemic, sleep becomes even more essential
Yeah.
because of all the wide benefits of physical and mental health. Uh,
Right.
so sleep empowers an effective immune system.
Okay.
So having good quality, solid night rest strengthens our body's defenses.
Okay.
There's been studies that have found a lack of
Sorry.
sleep can make the vaccines less effective, which obviously we
Yeah.
eventually hopefully get this vaccine and be able to have it be effective. Um, Sleep also heightens our brain function. Our
Okay.
mind works better if we're working from home and have our kiddos doing their, school from home. These they contribute to the complex thinking, learning and memory, and good sleep can help them stay sharp.
Okay.
So
Okay. Yeah.
yeah, and yeah.
So, with all of those things, knowing that sleep is so vitally important to us, and not just for our kiddos, but for us, then there's a term that I've heard, and that's sleep training.
Hmm.
So, when you talk to me about this, and I did some sleep training when the boys were first born, but it has kind of changed, since I've had the boys. So tell me what sleep training is. And here's the second kind of question to that. Is sleep training only for kids?
Not really. I mean,
Okay.
sleep training is definitely well for children. It
Yeah.
is teaching them to go to sleep independently when they're
Okay.
developmentally capable.
Okay.
Um, and there's different methods that people use, and the experts do say that the best time to sleep train a kiddo is 6 months or older. The older
Okay.
they get, the harder they can give us, the harder time they can
Yeah.
give us. So it's,
Yes.
if you can do it earlier, but there's always, I work with kiddos up to age 6,
Yeah.
and they have, backslides or fears or anxieties or, and so
Yeah.
developmental leaps that cause those things. So knowing that it's okay to still train them at different stages later when things pop up. That's important. And I would
Yeah.
say for adults, I mean, a lot of time it's related to our sleep habits.
Okay.
So, making sure we have positive sleep associations. A lot of my parents that I work with, they're like, "Oh, I really want to get my kids sleeping well, so they don't need to have the TV on to fall asleep, or
Yes.
listen to, do all this stuff to in order to fall asleep, take these medications to fall asleep, because a lot of them have those sleep difficulties. So, for
Okay.
us, yeah, so for us adults, having really healthy sleep habits is a good way to train our bodies.
Okay. Okay. So I'm gonna put you in the hot seat. There is a lot of, I know when I was raising my boys, should I sleep train? Should I let them cry it out? Should I, so as an expert, what would you say to all those different things that we're thrown at when we're parents? What's right, what's not right?
Yeah. So as a certified gentle sleep coach, I don't do cry it out with my families.
Yep.
And I always explain what that means. Cry it
Okay.
out means you leave them alone to cry by themselves. And and parents will use that. Some parents may use that because they've been told it works really fast. It should work in the first 2 or 3 days. And the majority of us parents feel like we can't do that because it's so hard on our hearts and our heads.
Yes.
I
Yeah,
mean, yeah, hearing our kid cry, it just, no, doesn't feel good.
it
And
doesn't.
there's some people who believe that it's really negative for their bodies too. Um, so there's other methods out there. So finding a method that best fits your family's values and your family
Okay.
structure, and having an agreement with your spouse, your
Oh,
partner, is important too. So the methods that I like to use are called fading systems, where you're
okay.
able to stay with your kiddo and still offer them support, so you're not leaving them alone to cry.
Okay.
Unfortunately, doesn't mean that they're not going to cry, because when we change habits, it's frustrating, right?
Yeah.
And it's confusing sometimes, and learning a new skill can be challenging. And
Yeah.
so they will protest, they may cry, but you're going to be there with them, kind of their coach on the sideline,
Yeah.
uh, teaching them this skill, with your presence, not leaving them alone to cry it out. So
Okay. Okay. Now, the fading out, is that what you taught me with our youngest? I think that's what we
I,
practiced.
I believe so. Yeah.
Yeah. Because
Mhm.
with what happened with us when I called you freaking out, we had moved to this new house, and our youngest, who's always had sleep issues. I mean, since the moment he came out of my womb, he's had sleep issues. He's just that kiddo. But when we transitioned to this new house, I saw this reverting in behavior and sleep habits. And you had me fade out. So it was, he I would sit in his room, like he would want mommy there, and I'm like, okay. And you said, okay, sit next to the bed, then sit next to the door, then sit outside the hallway. And I thought you were a crazy person, and I was mad at you because I was exhausted. And I'm like, you want me to do what, Julie? No, can't I just like bind him up with duct tape and just be done with this? Because we were so tired. And you kept saying, Piper, you've got to be patient and consistent with this. So I'm like, oh, okay, but you had us faded out. And wouldn't you know, the expert knew what she was doing.
Yeah, that whole method is wonderful, because for kiddos who are experiencing separation anxiety or
Yeah.
fears, it's so for anxiety, it's really helpful for us to not fully accommodate for a child, because we're teaching
Okay.
them, you can't do it. You will always need me to do it. And
Okay.
that's not healthy.
Yeah.
So what it is those fading systems are, you know what? I know you're struggling with this, and I'm going to help you right now. And then I'm
Hmm.
going to do a little less for you. And then I'm going to do
Okay.
less for you. And you know what? You can do this. I'm right here. It's a way of building feeling of safety, security, just a good secure base.
Yeah. And confidence, it sounds like
And
giving that kiddo the confidence. Hey, I can do what mom's saying I can do.
right, exactly. So,
Okay. With the fading system, I wonder if can you translate that with kiddos to adults?
um, in regards to teaching
Like
health,
trying to learn new healthy habits, that sort of thing. What would you suggest as an adult that's really struggling? What would that kind of look like for an adult?
well, I mean, that's funny you say that. I don't know if I've ever even really thought of that.
Yeah.
But if you think about it, if your associations are things like, I have to I have to have the TV on before bed. Maybe
Okay.
you fade it out by doing a little bit earlier,
Okay.
and this turning it off at a different time. Sometimes those things, because they do affect our melatonin, are best to just like cold turkey them.
Okay.
Um, but just, I'd say, yeah, if there's whatever your, crutch is or association is for sleep, if there is an option to slowly fade it out,
Mhm.
then yeah, I don't see a problem with that.
Okay, that's great. And I know like when I've tried to cut down on alcohol before bed, because I can't do even alcohol half the time because it wakes me up. And I sweat. It's a hormonal thing.
Mhm.
It wakes me up, or it's just over 40 thing. I don't know. You're laughing because of that.
I know.
That's why
I
you're
know.
laughing. You're like,
You're
oh my God,
old.
he's over 40.
Ab-
But what I'd started doing was transitioning to, um, I have goggles. I have orange goggles. My boys have stolen them from me. And I'll read and I'll have a cup of tea.
Mhm.
Something warm for some reason helps me just, I guess, getting that, changing that habit, of having a cold truly and watching something stupid on TV to something warm and more quiet just sets the tone for my brain, I think. I don't know.
Oh
That
yeah.
that
Yeah.
kind of helped me, I guess, as an adult trying to think about, because my sleep is messed up right now. I've never My friend across the street, I'm texting her, 11 o'clock at night. She goes, "What are you doing? You you're not supposed to be up. You're never up past 9." So it's definitely trying to reset those habits. So I like thinking about fading out our bad habits as adults, the same as fading out those feelings. Now, I wanted to touch on what you talked about with the anxieties. I imagine a lot of kiddos are having a lot of anxieties and fears right now because everything's out of whack. So what would you say to a parent where they're seeing heightened anxiety with their kiddos?
Yeah, again, a lot of it is we have to also watch ourselves. What are we
Okay.
talking about around our
Oh,
children? What are we watching and listening to around our children? Uh, I personally don't have. I used to, when the kids were at school, turn on the the news radio station and listen to news radio. I don't do that anymore. I actually
yeah.
have our Christian music station on because it's way more calming. They have, what I love is they have all these positive stories about things people are doing
Yes.
right now, community and helping others, and talking to the kiddos about, hey, we're going to get through this. It's going to stink, and there's going to be some things that are kind of that are really hard and rough for either us or other people, but letting them see you not be freaked out
Okay.
is also helpful for their anxieties. But it's also true, it's okay to be honest with them and say,
Okay,
yeah,
so it is okay for them to know, yeah, this is hard for mom too.
oh, totally. Yeah,
Okay.
absolutely. Sharing that so that they don't feel like their anxieties or worries are out of the blue, like no reason for it, but
Yeah.
letting them know that it's okay to feel that way, validate their feelings, but also kind of just saying, hey, we can get through this and we are going to get through this. It's just going to be a little different. It's going to look a little different.
Yeah. Yeah. What other So I know you have a lot of great tips for our kids, especially during corona, and like I said to everybody before, make sure you stick to the end because we do have this workbook from Julie with all of her tips, everything to help you. So, will you share those with us, especially for us parents that are struggling with kiddos that are, suffering right now with their sleep? Or maybe it's not just right now. Maybe it's something that we've never tackled and now it's in our face and we have to tackle it.
True. Yeah, my caseload actually went up because everyone's like, "Oh, this is the perfect time to sleep train our kids. We're stuck at home." I'm like, "Oh boy, here we go."
It's a
Anyway,
good problem to have, Julie.
I know, very fortunate, very fortunate. So one of the first things I definitely want to make clear is that an early bedtime
Okay.
is very helpful. And I know that might sound odd. People are like, "Oh, if I keep them up later, they'll sleep in later." Nope,
Yes, I hear that a lot.
not how kids work. Sleep
Okay.
begets sleep. So the earlier we get them down, the longer, the better they should sleep.
Okay.
Most kids, on average, usually go to bed somewhere between 6:30 and 8ish, depending on their age.
Okay.
Um, and then kids need on an average like 10 to 12ish hours at night for
Okay.
like the first 9 years of their life. So
Okay.
earlier bedtime is important. Offering a nap. For kiddos, they nap until usually on average between 3.5 and 4.5. They may not nap every day. By that time, maybe they're every other day or so. But
Okay. So you're saying 3.5, 4.5 years old, they'll need a nap?
yes,
Okay.
yes.
Okay.
Yeah, so short naps or no naps for kiddos who still need them,
Okay.
they might create night wakings or even early rising. So
So not having a nap could wake them up in the middle of the night.
yeah, because sleep
Oh,
begets sleep. So the better
okay.
quantity of sleep they get, the better they do sleep at night.
Oh,
Yeah, I know it sounds like I said backwards, but when I talk to my clients and I'm like, how are their naps and when is bedtime? And then I, help them work on those two issues. A lot of times they will find that those middle of the night wakings and early rising will eventually go away. Cause who wants to wake up with a kid at 4 or 5 a.m.? So
no, not at all.
one of my big things that I see are really probably the hardest. I mean, those things mostly, a nap or early bedtime are relatively pretty clear. But when I tell parents you need to put your child down awake, not already asleep or too drowsy,
Yeah.
they look at me like, how the heck do I do that?
Well,
I
because I
swear, if
mean,
I
I remember I would rock them, and then you're trying to not breathe, trying to lay him down. You're
exactly.
scared because you finally got him asleep. So that's not a good way to do it.
Well, there's moments for that. Like
Okay.
when they are under 18 weeks, after 18 weeks, I like to offer opportunities
Okay.
because that's a great time to start seeing, hey, has your little light switch turned to where you can self-soothe and trying to offer these opportunities to put them down more awake at bedtime.
Okay.
But okay, by 6 months of age and up, typical healthy growing kiddos, not premature, can all be able to self-soothe. So by that point, we definitely want to teach them how to put themselves to sleep so that
Okay.
because we have these partial arousals in the middle of the night, none of us sleep through the night.
Right.
We
Right. It's
always
that going like that. Yeah.
right. We have those REM cycles and then we have non-REM and then we have those partial arousals between sleep cycles. And if we always teach or excuse me, always put our child to sleep or get them too drowsy, when they have their partial arousals, they end up becoming more fully awake and like, hey, where are you? Where did you go? You're just rocking me, bouncing me, rubbing me my back.
Okay.
And so teaching them how to put themselves to sleep at bedtime is really going to help with middle of the night wakings or early rising, all that stuff.
Okay.
So
Okay.
yeah.
What do you do with a kiddo like mine was? He doesn't have Facebook, so that's good. Um, where I mean, it's like all out screaming fit.
Yeah.
Absolutely not. I am not going to bed, mom. What do parents do with that?
Mm. So my parent or the parents I work with, they kind of laugh at me when I say, um, so it's like a tantrum.
Yeah.
Basically, in the middle of the day, what do you do with that tantrum? So you hopefully will maybe stay with them and say, hey, make sure they're safe. That's what I always say.
Yeah.
That's why I love the fading system. So you stay with them, make sure they're safe. And then you become like the most boring robotic parent. You're like, it's okay. I'm right here. I love you. Try to stay calm because, any tension is good attention. And if we throw a fit and say, you need to calm down,
They're getting
then that
attention.
feeds, yeah, that feeds into that negative attention. And we just want to try to do our best. With my parents, we talk about taking deep breaths and trying to like calm ourselves before going into the training process
Okay.
because it can get at our last nerve,
Yeah.
especially when we're already tired. It's like, seriously,
Yeah.
just go to sleep. But trying to stay calm and let them know that you're there, you love them, and we know that they can do this
Okay.
is really helpful. Yeah.
Okay. Now the last tip, which was actually you saved us with this, because we really did struggle with our youngest, and you finally said, Piper, is he snoring?
Mm-hmm.
And I said, oh, he could suck the paint off the walls. And you're like, you need to take him in right
Yeah.
now. And when that poor kiddo couldn't breathe. We
Yeah.
didn't know, but you were the one who said, you need to take him in. You need to get him checked out. And they took his adenoids and his tonsils because they were so swollen. So the snoring, he couldn't breathe. It was waking him up nonstop. And no wonder his anxiety was so high,
Yeah. Yep. Yep.
you
And
know?
so yeah, that's one thing when I work with my families, I have them fill out a history form and they
Okay.
answer questions.
Yeah.
And on those some of those questions are kind of little red flags for me to ask a little more details about that. I am not a medical doctor, but I'm really fortunate that the training that I've been that I have gone through and do continuing education through Kim West's program, it is we have medical doctors, we have ENTs, we have chiropractors, craniosacral, like just all these specialists come to talk to us about possible issues that could be causing these sleep problems.
Yeah.
I am aware of, I like to ask certain questions and making sure that your child is not, there's something medically going on. It's making sure that that's not why they're having these wakings.
Yeah. Yeah.
One
And it
of
was
the,
just so funny. I just thought, no, my kid just snores. He's like his dad. You know?
yeah. And I've been trained, I've been told that there's no real good reason for a child to snore. There's
Okay.
either a cold or allergies or possible sleep apnea, which
Yeah.
you, yeah. And so if your child's snoring, hey, just talk to the pediatrician about it. And if your parental instincts are like, well, they blew me off, but I really feel like something might be going on there, get a second opinion. Go to an ENT.
Yep.
I
Yep.
love
Yeah,
people.
we took ours to an ENT, and boy, they put that little thing down, and he was like, his adenoids are huge. They rate them, I think it's like a scale from 1 to 5, the adenoids, I believe, if I'm remembering correct, or 1 to 4. But anyway, his were the top, and it was like we got to take those suckers out,
Yeah.
because it was just blocking his airways. So
Mhm.
um, I love that. And then the last one, choose a method and be consistent, which when you
And
told me that, just be consistent, Piper, I just it's like you're like here in Washington, Julie.
I know that's so hard.
Yeah.
But yeah, like I was saying earlier, whatever method works best for your family.
Okay.
We talked about the cried out, and like I said, my fading systems are the best. There's also timed checks or graduated extinction, which
Okay.
is you leave and come back. Some of those methods are good for maybe overstimulated children, that if you sit there, it makes them even more mad, and
Mhm.
it doesn't actually help calm them.
Mhm.
So choosing the right method for your kiddo and your family, and then yeah, being consistent. And the patience thing is really important. In
Yeah.
the almost 9 years I've been doing this, I have seen that the older kiddos are, the longer you have to stick with it and be consistent.
Yeah.
I tell families like 1 week per year. So like if we're working with
Oh,
I have a couple 4.5-year-olds I've been working with lately. And I tell the parents, I'm like, we need to push our calls out, and you have to stick with this plan and stay consistent for 5 weeks. Literally, they are wanting to strangle
well,
me.
yeah, because you said to me, because Colt was one of your oldest ones, and you're like, Piper, you're
Mm,
in for the long haul.
yeah.
Just get ready. I'm like, how many weeks are you talking? You're like, you're like at 8 weeks. I'm like, I'm sorry, what did you say? I don't get to sleep for two
Yeah.
months.
And
But you
it's,
were right.
yeah. And it's not like super horrible for 8 weeks.
It's
You,
not. It's just
right.
it's just hard as an exhausted parent. You're like, why can't this kid just sleep? It's just normal. Everybody's supposed to sleep. It's hard as a parent when you're just frustrated, and this is a normal thing. Like you said, this is a biological process. Why isn't it working for them?
Yeah. Yeah.
It's
We
it's
all
hard.
have sleep disruptions.
So
Yeah.
I bet you find yourself counseling your parents a lot.
Yeah, I talk to them a lot about it, and we
Yeah.
giggle a lot of times because they know, they're like, oh my gosh, I totally need to do this or that, and they know. And so when I do have some parents that are really struggling,
Yeah.
I have a few sleep docs that I might refer them to. But yeah, it's common.
Yeah, 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 I'm sure. Well, I love this. And I know, for me, thinking about, while we're talking, thinking about my coaching and what I'm seeing come across with my clients is, I'm not the only one that's struggling with sleep, but my clients are really struggling with sleep. And it sounds like with some of the parents that you talk to, and probably some adults that are watching today, that there's worries and anxieties. The kiddos are feeling them, and we're feeling them. And that's definitely interrupting our sleep. Definitely interrupting our sleep. And so I think for me in particular, and I know you and I've talked about this over the years, and I've talked about with my clients, is really taking hold of those pervasive thoughts. Those thoughts that might be just beating us up at night. And it helps, to journal those things, and to pluck one thought out from another. And I always say, filtering your truth from lies, because, when our anxiety goes, most of the time it's a scenario that we're building up, rather than saying, this is what's taking place, this is what's not taking place.
Mhm.
So, what would you say when we're tackling pervasive thoughts? What would you say is helpful for you in that, or anything that you've practiced?
Well, you and I are both, I feel very blessed to have you as a friend because we're both Christians, and
Yeah.
you've shared that working through our defeats and our fears in life with God's promises and his strength is the true way to find long lasting health. You shared that. And one of my favorite recommendations that you gave me, I don't know if you remember, so, a long time ago, was to have like a notepad or a journal
Yes.
next to the bed, so that when we have these, sometimes these thoughts may be either intrusive, or our to-do list make it hard for us to either fall asleep, or my biggest problem is waking up 2 or 3 in the morning and having those thoughts.
Yes.
So
Yes.
having some sort of a notepad or a journal next to our bed that we can like quickly write those down, so that we're not feeling like we need to stew on those and create more sleep
Yeah.
problems.
Absolutely. Yeah. And I still do that. I still have at least a little scrap of paper or something is always next to my bed, because it's hard. I mean, especially now with the pandemic. I know a lot of you that are watching right now, you've lost jobs. You don't know how you're going to feed your family. You don't know how you're going to help your employees. And so, how do you stop that thought process? And it really is, number one, how you're feeling now, you're not alone in it. And what you're feeling is real, the anxiety, the grief, all of those things. But if you don't get restorative sleep, it's going to worsen those thoughts and feelings, right?
Mhm.
Because we need that rejuvenation that sleep's going to give us. And so by jotting them down, like you said, and filtering those through is so key in our thought process, so key in our thought process. And I love that you remember that. I love that you remember that. And that's how I came up with my cookbook years ago.
Mhm.
Is I had a huge failure with my first chefing business, and God woke me up for a week straight at 4 a.m. thinking about food or smelling food, which is really bizarre. I just thought I thought I was pregnant for a while. I thought, oh. But then I clued into, okay, there's something to this. And so every time I woke up at 4 a.m., I wrote down everything, and I could fall back to sleep. And wouldn't you know, that was my first book, The 4 a.m. Chef.
Mhm.
That's how it came up.
Yep.
Yeah. So,
Still have it.
well, yeah, it works. It does. So there could be a silver lining out of this pandemic. There could be. Put those thoughts down. You never know.
Mhm.
Capture those pervasive thoughts, write them down, and try to get that sleep. So I've loved this time with you. I've loved this time with you. So just to recap, what would you say are like your top 5 tips for us trying to sleep well and be well?
Sure. So the number one would probably be to set your schedule and have routine.
Okay.
Routines are wonderful. They help our bodies to be our circadian rhythm, to everything just function really well. It's really important to have normalcy even in these abnormal times.
Okay.
So having a consistent sleep and eating and exercising, all of our routines are so helpful for our bodies. So that would be my first one. And then the second one would be to reserve the bed for sleep.
Yep. Or
So what that means, I know, right? So what that means is, what we want to make sure that our bed isn't associated with, we don't want to do our work in bed. We don't want to
yeah.
really, we're not supposed to really watch TV in bed. Not having a TV in our room is probably good. Um, and so experts just recommend the association in our bed should be really sleep and sex. That's it.
Yep. That's
So,
it. That's what it's
yep.
for.
Yep. And then the third one would be to, like I was saying earlier, how important just natural light is,
Okay.
having natural light to help regulate our body's sleep cycle
Okay.
is a very healthy way to deal with any disruptions that might be coming on.
Okay.
So, have natural light will help our body's circadian rhythm. So
Okay.
spend time outside, open the windows. If it's raining, like today here, it's raining. So we've got all the lights or all the windows open, and maybe we'll go for a walk with our whatever, and just being mindful of too much screen time.
Okay. Okay. It's funny you say the light. I have a ring light right here. And in the gloomy days here, and now that I'm not in Washington, honestly, we have sun all the time here. And when we get gloomy days, I'm kind of complaining. It's like 3 days straight and I want to die.
Mhm.
But I'll turn the ring light on.
Mhm.
And because I'm just, and it feels good. It's
Yeah.
funny. And it's like, oh, I just need something to, I don't know what it is. It must be that exposure to light, any light, just it rejuvenates my mental health, I guess I could say.
Yeah, and one thing that I have that it's I don't know if anyone has heard of these happy lights
Yeah.
that are out there. I know Costco is selling one for a while. I have one in my office. I have one in my bathroom. So in the morning when I'm getting ready, I flip it on.
Oh, okay.
But those happy lights are really helpful, especially here when it's
Right.
winter time when it's dark until like 8 a.m.
Yes,
Having
exactly.
some natural light from these blue light or from these happy lights are
Yep.
really
I
helpful
had
for.
one in Washington. Yeah, I had them. They
Mhm.
were prolific in my homes in Washington.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, definitely. And I'd say the fourth thing would be to stay active.
Okay.
As I know your history with exercise, and I just tell families, get outside if you can. If not, um, try to do something in the house. Do jumping jacks. Do anything that walk in place. Anything that can help to keep your body moving so
Okay.
that you get this daily exercise that is helpful to, like I said, for sleep. So,
Yeah, yeah. Even I know when the boys were younger and I didn't have a home gym, we would do like obstacle courses in the basement,
mhm.
because it would be raining, or we had one summer it was just rained the whole time. And I remember setting up the basement an obstacle course for the boys to jump on pillows from the couch, and then they loved it. But it was just something to get that activity going with them. And it really did make my day better with them.
Oh, definitely. Yeah, we used to do that too. And they'd have to crawl under the kitchen table and
Yes.
jump over the pillow or the ottoman and run around something. Yeah, those obstacle courses, especially for the little kids. Oh, one other thing that I loved was for little kids, they have these in-home, like this big trampolines
We had a
where,
bounce house that we used to blow up in the house just to get
yeah.
them
So
bouncing.
I don't have a house that big, so I don't
Well,
think
it wasn't that big. It was just like a small little one, but we blow it up in the house in the basement.
right. I'm teasing you. No, but the trampoline that I'm talking about is literally like for toddlers, and we'd put it in
Perfect.
front of, in the TV room. So
Yeah,
if they were watching cartoons or whatnot, they would just rotate so they weren't just sitting still because, they're just not really sitting still anyway. They're doing flips everywhere.
exactly. Well, that's a good idea. I think I've seen a trampoline like that in my friend's house with her little ones. So
Probably. Yeah.
that's great. And I remember the door bouncers before
Oh,
they were illegal. I think they're
oh,
illegal now
oh, I
because
don't.
they're dangerous. But I remember those bouncers; those were really helpful
Okay.
too.
Yeah. And I would say the fifth one is something we kind of briefly went over before was just watch what you eat and what you
Okay.
drink. Keeping a healthy diet can promote good sleep, and in particular, be cautious with the intake of the alcohol and the caffeine,
Yeah.
uh, especially later in the day. And
Mhm.
yeah, because they can disrupt your quality and quantity of sleep. So
Okay.
just being
What about kids though? I mean, hopefully they're not drinking. What should we add to their diet?
One thing that, like I was saying earlier, help having the kids kind of help with meals,
Okay.
developmentally appropriate, and teaching them like, oh, I remember saying with my kids, oh, this is an interesting vegetable or fruit, let's try a new one. One of my favorite was Brussels sprouts.
Yes.
I personally never had Brussels, and this was like probably 10 years ago.
Yeah.
I had never had Brussels sprouts. And so I was like, I'll give it a try. And I told the kids, I'm like, I don't know, I haven't tried this. Let's give it a try. And we cooked them there was, they tried them,
Yeah.
so trying to get some vegetables and fruits in that maybe that you've never tried, they've never tried, and see. I've heard that having the kids do cooking often will, kind of get them interested in actually trying it, and maybe they become
Perfect. Yeah, absolutely. And
yeah.
I know you have a bonus and a bonus tip, and this is one of my favorite because it's kind of hard right now, but we definitely need to do it.
I know. My bonus tip, I know you said five, but I couldn't help it. I had to put in there is practice kindness and foster connection.
Yeah.
Right now, oh my gosh, Piper and I were talking about this earlier. It's so frustrating looking at Facebook and stuff
Oh,
where everyone's yelling at each other. Everyone has certain opinions about certain people in charge and and what's going on. That is so difficult and challenging, and it's not being kind to each
Yeah.
other. So trying to limit those things so that we can focus on, like I was saying earlier, I like to listen to the Christian radio
Yep.
station just because they talk about, if you can find someone that will that talks about things in their community that people are doing. They're doing so many wonderful things for the nurses and the doctors.
Yes.
Bringing them lunches, making all those masks and donating them. Like, what are some of the kind things that people are doing in our community to help each other
Absolutely.
during this time? And that will help us, with our mood, and
Yeah.
in turn, that will hopefully help us with our sleep too.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
try not to focus on the bad stuff, focus on the positive stuff. And I know I said reduce the screen time, but if you can foster connection with your friends, doing Zoom meetings. So I still stay connected with some friends of mine that I've known since first grade.
Wow.
And we've decided we're Zooming every Saturday at 6 p.m. And I mean, sometimes we're cooking dinner with each other,
Right.
like just get connected with friends, stay connected,
Yeah.
and do your best to not focus on all the negative stuff that's going
The
on.
negative. Yeah. It's funny you brought that up. Last week, I was being a bit of a hermit, and my friend across the street, she's like, enough. She just knew. And so we sat one end of the patio and the other end of the patio, and we had glasses of
Mhm.
wine. I know it's against that rule, but it was exactly what my heart and my mind needed.
Mhm.
I had to foster that connection.
Mhm.
And she's like, enough, we're going to put our PPEs on. We're going to, just chill out, and she knew. And it was one of the best things that could have, I needed that, because I'm online. I'm online all the time and I love it, but I missed that. I need tangible. And I think a lot of people are feeling that right now. Like, I need that tangible something, seeing that tangible human, like right there. I know I can't touch you, I can't hug you, but it's that tangible, and I was so desperate for that tangible.
Yeah, I love that social distance, hanging out with someone. Or I'm fortunate, I live in a cul-de-sac, and
Yep.
so at about 4, sometime after 4, like 4:30, we're all like, when it's nice weather, everyone goes to their driveway and we all chat across the street to
Yes.
each other, and
Because you just
sometimes,
need that tangible, right? You just need that.
yeah.
If I had to hug you, or I could hug you, I could, I could run over there, So, well, this has been so wonderful. I've had so much fun with you today. For some of you, I'm not seeing on Facebook if we've got any questions, but for anybody on the webinar, if you have any questions for Julie, we'll be taking those right now. Just utilize the chat box on the screen. I'm going to try to see if I have anything on Facebook. I can't tell. We'll see. I'm trying not to let everybody hear what's going on. You can hear it. I don't know how to mute it. Yes, Carrie Lord, you can ask questions if you're still on. Carrie, are you still on? Sorry, that's loud. Thoughts on night lights. We have someone asking on night lights. What are some thoughts on night lights?
Oh, nightlights, sure. So I love, if you can, look for red lights, because red light night lights are wonderful because they don't interfere with our melatonin production. If you don't have a red light and you do have just a regular old night light, it's possible and not like right next to your kiddo.
Okay.
I'll just put a little plug. I don't even get a kickback for this at all, but there is a light that's out there right now called Hatch light. That
the what light? I think you're breaking up a little bit.
Oh, it's called the Hatch light.
Hatch light. Okay, perfect. Yeah. Hatch. Okay.
Like an egg hatches. So it is a light that it's also a white noise machine, and it has different colors on it, and I utilize that a lot for my older kiddos who they want a night light on, so you can have it red at night, and I'd put it down to the dimmest setting, and then it can turn green or rainbow in the morning.
Oh, fun.
Yeah, so when it's wake up time. But yeah, I'd say night lights are okay as long as they're as dim as possible, and if you can get the red light spectrum, that's
and you can just get those little red light bulbs too, right? Would that work?
Yep.
Okay, perfect. Any other questions out there? Did that answer it for you, Carrie? Hopefully you're still on. Carla, if you're still on, if you have any questions, here's a question from our webinar guest. As an adult, I read in bed. Is that one of the things I should eliminate or do elsewhere and earlier? Good question.
Yeah, it's a great question. As long as you're not reading like from your phone that has a blue light, or like some sort of a pad that has a blue light.
Okay.
If it's a normal, reader that has a blue light filter,
Okay.
or it's a regular old book, which
Book.
is even better.
Whoa, pages.
I actually love those. Yeah, then having that in your bed, if it's part of your bedtime routine, oh yeah, I think that you can probably definitely get yourself nice and
And
comfy
that's
in
why
your
I
bed.
bought the orange goggles, because so much of my books now are on, Kindle. So I have the orange goggles,
Mhm.
and I look like a goofball. But and my boys actually have started wearing them about 2 hours before bed,
Mhm.
just to
Yep.
block as much out as they can. So we embrace the goofball at our house. Great questions. Any other questions from anybody before we wrap things up? It's looking like it's quiet.
Mhm.
Well, thank you so much for today, Julie. This has been so fun. And of course, spending time with you. So please tell everyone what kind of services you do offer and then where they can find you. I think that's really important. Get that out there.
Sure. So I offer individual consultations for families, and I work with kiddos 0 to 6 years old. So I also do follow up if they need that. And then I also just recently during this stay-at-home order, I've been doing a Q&A on Fridays on my Facebook business page, which is facebook.com sleep consulting.
Perfect.
So Fridays at 2 o'clock Q&A.
And
And
2
I
p.m.
also,
Pacific Standard
oh,
Time.
that is correct.
Yes,
Yes.
2 p.m. Pacific Standard Time. Say that
Yes.
3 times
Thank you.
fast.
Yeah. And then I do community talks. Obviously I haven't been doing that lately, but when everything hopefully is better here soon, I will do sleep talks in the community,
Right.
at schools, daycares. I actually even started doing sleep talks at the high schools about teens and sleep, their superpower.
Yeah. I've seen
So,
you talk about that you're really pushing for kids to have a later start day in school.
oh, yeah. And yeah, I definitely, well, it's just their bodies as they get older, their circadian rhythms shift. So when they're little, right, they go to bed somewhere between 6:30 and 8. And at teenagers, their bodies actually, their natural circadian rhythm is later. So
Okay.
they don't usually go to bed until like 10, probably sometimes 11.
Yeah.
So
Yeah. I've been fighting that one at our house. But I realize it is what it is. Well, everybody, please make sure that you head on over to Julie's website as well. And that's juliekennedyconsulting.com. You can find a workbook. She'll have that available for you. You can find the workbook over at my site, piperharris.net/COVID. And so make sure you get this workbook. That's all of Julie's tips are in there. We've also added some journaling opportunities for adults to capture some of those pervasive thoughts. And there's some writing prompts in there to help you kind of work through those things. Make sure you join me next week for our next Lunch and Learn series, Wednesday at 1 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. We are going to be meeting with, the co-founder of Atlanta SEO Pro, Ashley, and we are going to be talking about how you can build your business through digital marketing. So ladies that have broken out in business, Julie, you and your social media, you guys need to meet up with us next week and learn all about digital marketing with Atlanta SEO Pro. So thank you again to everyone. We are so very grateful for you. We pray that you will sleep well and be well during this pandemic. If you need anything from Julie or I, please reach out. We are here for you. Thanks so much, everybody, and we'll talk to everyone soon.